Hello everyone, welcome to Fireside Chat with Shaifali Season 2. As you all know that the year 2022 marks the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relationship between India and Japan. And to celebrate this momentous year, the Indo-Japan Business Council has decided to host a series of events that includes business session, lecture, cultural programs and more. Let us work together to forge a vibrant India-Japan relationship for future generations. For more details, please visit our website www.ijbc.org. So I'm very excited and honored to have my guest today because he's a very senior person and it's actually pleasure to share my screen with him. So I'll quickly tell about my guest today. Mr. Hari Damle. So I can say not Mr. or to be very specific, Dr. Hari Damle. Dr. Hari Damle is a PhD holder in chemistry from University Pune, India, and did postdoctoral research from Kyoto University, Japan, for 14 months on Mombusho scholarship. He also participated in long-term teachers training program 6 months in Japanese language school at the Japan Foundation in Tokyo. Dr. Damle taught Japanese language at Department of Foreign Languages of Pune University for 18 years, along with chemistry in MES Abasaheb Gaware College, Pune, for 37 years as a full-time lecturer and retired as head from Department of Chemistry, MES A. Gaware College, Pune. Dr. Damle is a co-editor of Japanese-Marathi Basic Verb Dictionary published in December 2015 and was one of the founding members for Japanese Language Teachers Association, Pune. He worked as interpreter in Japanese for forging, automobile and ferrite industries. At present, teaching translation for BA Japanese course in Tilak Maharashtra University, Pune, India. Dr. Damle can translate Japanese patents, research papers, engineering documents, and computer-related documents for chemical, pharmaceutical engineering, automobile, and computer companies. So please welcome Dr. Hari Damle to Fireside Chat with Shaifali. Thank you very much, sir, for giving your time and coming for this interview session. It's actually honor to be with you.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance to be with you. Hi.
So first of all, is my introduction was okay? Has I missed anything in that?
No, nothing.
Nothing? Okay, so I think I did a great job today.
Yeah, definitely.
So, sir, if I start with my question round. So I just wanted to know how was your journey started with a Japanese language, because you studied chemistry first. You had a BSc, then MSc, and PhD also, and then postdoctoral. So from chemistry, then coming to Japanese language, I mean, what connection you got in that?
Yeah. There is no connection between my chemistry and my Japanese language. Actually, I wanted to learn Chinese language because China had attacked India when I was in 10th standard in 1962, and then later also. So to know enemy's language, I was very much excited, but there was no one to teach Chinese language, no facilities. So I waited for a few years, and then I came across an advertisement of Indo-Japanese Association that they are starting a Japanese language course. I was also fascinated by the progress Japan had done in a very short time. So I thought that it is better to learn Japanese and then I can shift to Chinese because their scripts are similar. They look similar. I don't know. Didn't know that time. So I enrolled myself into that class and learned there for 2 years. from a Japanese teacher, Miss Igarashi Michiko. Yeah, she was very, very enthusiastic. So I was very much interested in Japanese language, and then continued Japanese language throughout my career. And that time I was also doing my PhD part-time in National Chemical Laboratory, and I was teaching in college. And this was the third stream which I also joined. So somehow I managed it because I was quite young that time and very much enthusiastic and energetic. So I started learning Japanese language like that.
So if I talk about at that time, like today people go means to there are a lot of students for Japanese language, means we are having a lot of institutes for that, lot of in fact in schools also Japanese language has been started.
Yeah.
But at that time it was a single institute. So how was the majority of students? Like there was number of students was there, or like very less?
Yeah, initially there were about 40 students initially, and students means most of them were adults, not college students or school students. So they started learning, but our sensei teacher, she used only direct method for teaching, only in Japanese. She didn't know much English, even though she was about, maybe she was younger than me, 25 years old or so. So even then she didn't know any English, much English. So she used only Japanese. And they had split the students in two batches because one batch should be of some a suitable size. So after that, they had to merge the two batches because the number of students go on shedding, and then finally we five remain at the end of 2 years.
Oh.
And later, Tendulkar Michiko Sensei, she joined. Her name was Nakada Michiko. She is Japanese, but that time she joined, and she was also enthusiastic. So I continued because of those teachers.
So how difficult it was at that time? Like if I talk to about today's time, teachers are generally Indian. They know English language. If I say if I'm studying in Pune, so they know the Marathi language also.
Yes.
So there's a medium of communication like either Hindi, Marathi, or English.
Only
But
Japanese.
at your time, only Japanese. So how
With some
difficult it
English
was?
words. That's all. That is why it happened that I could speak natural Japanese. Because if I would have learned in Marathi or Hindi or English, then it would have become a mess. But because of them, my pronunciation was also natural. Everything was, it happened like that. I didn't have to do anything. And we used this type of book, which was in Roman script, all. It was Naganuma's basic Japanese course. It was all in Roman script, and the lessons were very simple, like this. I don't know whether you can see it properly, but this was the book.
So
it is of this time.
So
Just
this book is still available in the market, or
no, it may not be available. It was published maybe quite long back, uh, maybe in 1970s or say 1950. It was published.
oh my
Now
God,
Naganuma.
it's long
It's
back.
a very primitive book, but very good book. And our teacher used to prepare lessons in her own handwriting on a cyclostyle. I don't know whether you know what is cyclostyling and all that, but you can check it on the internet. It was very interesting to know. After that, she gave us this book, this type of book.
Okay, so
This covered various topics, including Japanese advertisements in newspapers.
Oh.
Different samples, all a cross section of Japanese culture and language. This was part one. This is part two. There were songs. Everything was there. Some fables and fairy tales. there was one story about weight of an elephant, how a student measured the weight of an elephant, and it was from India actually. They said that this story was taken from India. So it was a very interesting book. So we learned from those books and those teachers, and that was a very good fun. So I didn't think that I was learning something. It was just fun because of the teachers, their teaching method of teaching and all that.
So if I consider today's time, we are having the audio and video sort of thing in the classroom. The teacher generally shows all the videos and certain songs as well, which we can consider like a student for primary school must be learning in Japan. So because we are also like that. So today's teaching and that type of teaching, it must be very different.
Yes, it is very different. Our audio was from the teachers themselves. They used to talk to us, and the student who talked much in the class was progressing very well because he had a chance to talk to directly live Japanese. That was the advantage. So we learned live audio, and video was their actions, because Japanese teachers always do some actions. Always they call it teburi and miburi, means your body language. So from the body language, we learned a lot of things. And that was at that time there was no internet. Even that word was not there. So forget about the internet itself. No Google, no smartphones. Sometimes we talked to the teachers on the phone. I also didn't have phone in my house, so it was just like that. And from the teachers' mouths, we tried to collect everything and keep it like that. Hold it. That
so
was the urge.
Source or the mediums were less, but whatever the source or medium was available at that time, it was all live. And actually it was very beneficial because you all get the chance to learn the original original language, means the pronunciation and the accent. You got the chance to adapt that accent as well, which probably nowadays we are not able to get that.
Nowadays there is a lot of material. You can see any audio, video, everything is available. But what we were worried about, that we don't have to another chance. So we tried to make 100% out of it. Now, if you miss something, you say that I will do it, learn it afterwards.
Yeah, we are having internet.
Nothing like that. We didn't have even dictionaries. All the words list we took from the sensei, and we asked about new words, and they asked us to make sentences from different sentence patterns and all that. So everything was live, and we had to take part in that 50%. That was the fun.
Yeah, so I can imagine that fun.
Yeah.
And probably students of nowadays can get the chance to learn that sort of Japanese, because it's really wonderful to get that sort of teaching. And okay, coming back to my this chemistry question. So how you utilize your Japanese language learning in your field of profession, like because you were the professor of chemistry and retired as a department head. So somewhere it helped you in that, or it was totally different?
It was synergistic effect, né? Because when I went to Japan for a postdoctoral study in Kyoto University, Kyoto University is just like an IIT. To get admission in Kyoto University is very difficult, and there are about 8 Nobel laureates from that university, if you don't know. somehow I got admission to that university. The professor made it available for me, and he just explained me that you have to find out surface tension from photography. That's all in one line. What research I have to do. Then he said, because his field was different, chemical engineering, and my field was chemistry. So he gave me that problem and then stopped. Then I had to do everything myself. And my Japanese was very, very poor that time. But I mixed with the people, students, and talked in Japanese, got some books, and improved my Japanese. And then learned chemistry also, some chemical terms in Japanese. Bought some dictionaries in chemical terms, etc. Because that time online dictionaries were nothing to think of them. No way to get any online dictionary. Therefore, I bought some dictionaries from there.
So, your learning in Japan, like Kyoto University, was it in Japanese language or was it?
No, I didn't have to use much language. I was doing my own research. I had to develop my own apparatus for measurement of the surface tension and one camera. I took photographs of some drops, and from that I got that idea. And most of the literature was available in English, in even in Japanese libraries. Nobody was using that because they were using all Japanese material. So I got the access for that, and I had to talk to other students to in Japanese. So that improved my Japanese.
So when you came back to India, means after doing your 14 months postdoctoral research. So when you came back to India, then you decided for further Japanese language learning, or was it in mind that once I go back to India, I'll just restart my Japanese learning?
No, when I came back, immediately Mr. Padhe from Indo-Japanese Association, who was the head of that institution, he already knew that I could teach in Japanese because Igarashi Sensei told them long back that I was a potential teacher. So he requested me to teach there in Indo-Japanese Japanese language. So I started teaching there in addition to my college, and that way at the same time I was learning many things because while you teach, you are learning many things. And if you have sufficient knowledge, you cannot teach. So I had to acquire knowledge somehow. And my teacher, Igarashi, Michiko Nakada Sensei was already there in Pune. She settled in Pune. So I had a backing from her. So whenever I had any difficulty in teaching, I used to go to her and she solved my difficulties. She was always there. Still, she is there. So no problem.
So, means when you came back there, you did a lot of diploma also in Japanese language and advanced diploma also. Then JLPT also, means you started with JLPT
Yes.
diploma and advanced diploma. So how lengthy process was it for you?
I taught in Indo-Japanese for about 2 years, and then the university started certificate course in Japanese, and Michiko Tendulkar Sensei was there, so she asked me to teach there. So I shifted to university for teaching there. Before that, she gave me admission directly to diploma course there because I had learned some Japanese in Indo-Japanese. So I got diploma from University of Pune. There was some other Japanese teacher who taught us before Tendulkar Sensei took over. So after I got my diploma, Tendulkar Sensei took over. And then for advanced diploma, I had to wait because there was no that type of course. So 1 year I just got admission. I took admission to French course. and I learned some French, which I found to be very simple language because no problem in script. It was just like English and all that. I got good marks in that also. But after some time, advanced diploma started. So that time I was teaching to diploma course, and I was learning in advanced diploma course under Tendulkar Sensei. So I was busy for 6 days per week. 3 days I was teaching, 3 days I was learning. Like that it went on. And I got advanced diploma with very good marks. And then uh, it went on like that.
So
Then the
out of
university sent me to some course, uh, teaching methodology for 6 months to Tokyo
yeah.
in Japan Foundation. They asked me whether I can get a leave. So I got a leave from my college, which was of course without any payment, without any pay. So, but still I went there because I thought that it is better to go there. So I learned teaching methodology there and came back. And then Tendulkar Sensei told me that she was leaving university. So should I teach? Whether I should? I will be able to teach for advanced diploma. I told her that we'll teach first part by part, and you guide me. She said, "No, I am leaving. You just take over and start teaching." So I had to. Then okay, no problem. I started teaching advanced diploma. Like that, it went on without any planning. I never plan anything.
So two things out of curiosity. One, uh, you mentioned that you wanted to learn Chinese language. So when you are having some time, then why you have not learned Chinese language and instead you went for French language?
No, I didn't have any time. First thing is
Okay.
that I was teaching. In the beginning, I was doing research in NCL, and the rest I was teaching in college also. So sometime I had to work there, say 8 o'clock or up to 9 o'clock also. Because I went in the morning to NCL, then came back. I taught, I took my lectures in the college. Again went back to NCL, and then I worked for a long time. And like that, I took 6 years for getting PhD because it was part time. And at the same time, I got married. I had children, 2 children, and I had to look after them. And at the same time, there were some activities in the cultural activities in Japanese, and the students were after me. So myself and Dr. Kinkar, who was the other teacher, we were very much enthusiastic and conducted many activities for the students. So I didn't think about I didn't have to think about Chinese. That was so then I left Chinese. That idea itself.
So, and my second question is, first you went as a research student, means independently you worked for your research work, postdoctoral, and then you went back as a student for learning Japanese method,
Yes,
teaching
yes.
methodology. So, how different both the things were? I mean, I'm sure both are different,
Different.
but learning about teaching methodology and
Teaching
learning.
actually I was teaching chemistry. So about teaching, I had a good idea. I had a lot of experience in teaching. Only how to teach a language, that was a different thing for me. I used to teach chemistry, so no problem about that. So I had to learn that. Therefore, it was quite helpful. And actually, when I went there, they took a test of, there were about 30 students, 13 students. So they took a test, and maybe fortunately or unfortunately, I did quite well as compared to the other students. And there were 4 students who were originally Japanese, so Japanese origin. They were from Brazil and Peru and all those countries, Latin America. and I failed in that batch. Their Japanese was far higher standard as compared to me. But the other batch, I consulted my teacher which batch I should join. He said that you are allotted this batch, those Japanese people. And if you go to, opt for the other batch, their Japanese is very, very bad as compared to yours. So I was somewhere hanging. So I joined those four girls batch. I was the only a male student, and all were female, but they were very cooperative. So I learned a lot of things outside the class, because after the class we used to uh, uh, come together in our um, uh, what do you call our place, because there were some it was a mansion, weekly mansion, and we had our apartments. So most of us came to our apartment. My partner was Nepali, who was in the other batch, but he was very good, and we used to talk a lot in Japanese, late in up to late in the night. So I improved Japanese language there very much. That was actually the class. And in the class, they taught us grammar and all that. But the teachers say that you are very Joes, means you are very expert, so we are not going to teach much. We are going to talk to you. And they used to take us somewhere else to take some cultural programs and all that. So we enjoyed it very much. We talked, ate together. Very nice.
So one thing more, it was related to learning a methodology, teaching methodology. So that training helped you for teaching the chemistry language as well, because it's a methodology.
Yeah.
Creating new ideas of teaching. So that helped you in your profession as well?
Not much, because I was already settled there. So not much of a problem. And I was teaching to MSc class, mostly BSc and MSc. So I told them, I will not teach you. I will talk to you, and you have to will interact in the class. So that type of teaching was there. So that was different. And this was different, because here I initially taught to a certificate batch, where it was necessary to retain the students, because there was a lot of drop-off rate. Dropout rate was very high, and it is natural. Still, it is high. I know it, but we had to retain the students by doing some um, uh, adjusting our teaching in such a way that they get interested. And I tried to give chance to each and every student to talk at least once in the class, because there were a lot of students, about 40 or 60 sometimes, but we had to manage that. That was a very big task, but it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it very much.
Sure. So how was your first experience in Japan? Means it must be a cultural shock at that time, or in fact for today as well, it's a cultural shock when people first time go to Japan. It's totally different. So
Yes.
how was your experience?
Actually, I was knowing some of the things in Japan and Japanese language also. So didn't have much cultural shock, but I started talking right in the beginning itself, because I had to send a telegram to my house that I have reached home, because there was no telephone in our house. So I caught one person from the street and asked him how to go to the telegram office and all that. And he told me. And that was my first test in Japanese. No problem was there, actually. And then people were helpful, obviously.
So you have been to Japan recently, means pre-COVID or?
After that, I didn't go to Japan. In the maybe in the year 2012 or 13, I went to Japan in connection of our dictionary, because one of my students who is a linguist and who has settled in Japan, about 25 years he is there as a professor in some institute. He initiated that project and he called me to in that connection to Japan. And that time I was in 15 days, for 15 days in Japan. Then I found that a lot of difference was there in that Japan in 1982,
Yeah.
1986 and 2012. A lot of difference was there, obviously.
So what was the differences? Can you share something about that?
Yeah. First of all, internet. That time there was no internet. So that time we used to type Japanese on word processors. You may not be knowing what is a word processor because in computer there is word processing program, but
Yeah.
that was a totally different for Japanese language, especially custom made, and it was very difficult to use that. And there were only the Xerox machines were there. No internet was there, so that made a lot of difference between 1986 and 2012. That itself made a lot of difference. There were no smartphones, so this time there were smartphones.
So if I talk about your college life, if considering today's generation, like we are having internet, smartphone, we are having laptops or TVs to for the entertainment purpose.
Yes, yes.
But at that time, there was nothing like that. So as a student, what you all do, like only chatting, discussion, debate was there?
Our chatting was live every day. We had some katta, and you know what you mean by katta. We used to gather there and talk a lot. Actually, in my financial condition was not very good, so I had to go to the university from. I was living near Mandai there, in the heart of the city, and from there I went to the university on my old cycle, which was my parents, my father's bicycle. He bought it for 55 rupees, very old cycle. I used to go there on cycle for 2 years, and we didn't have Xerox machines. So there was one book which was 110 rupees in organic chemistry. We had to issue it from the library, and we had to take down all the things by hand, important things, notes. Or we went to the library, Jaikar library, and took down the notes in hand because we didn't have any other source. So we had to work like that. And we used to talk about the chemistry things in the garden of Pune University. It was a lot of open space that time. There was a lot of open space. Now it is not much. So we had to go. We used to go there and talked a lot about chemistry. So that interaction. So what I knew, I talked to my friends. What they knew, or they understood, they taught to me. Like that, we did it and got good marks that time also. No problem.
So, as a teacher, as a professor, you are having a vast experience. So, considering that time when you learned Japanese language or you were learning chemistry, and student of today's time, you want to say something to them, what procedure they should follow. I mean, there's a lot of different. So
Yes.
obviously, going back to what the way you have learned, it will be difficult for them to adapt. But some points you want to tell that it's a best way to follow. There are things.
Actually, they should get, first of all, they should get some guidance from a teacher. That is the access of their learning. And then they can use, say, internet, YouTube videos, audios, lots of things are there. There are mock tests also. So they can go through the tests and they can study on their own. But the access is the teacher, because if they somehow manage to keep track on the things, it is well and good. But sometimes what happens while learning some audios and videos, you are likely to go somewhere else than your goal. So you may miss the goal. Therefore, you have to have some backing of a teacher always. Which things you have to learn, which videos you have to see, which audios you have to see, how to get knowledge from that. Because uh, just listening to videos and watching audios, videos is not sufficient, I think.
And what you want to, what you will say to students, like nowadays we are having alternate day of classes, because sometimes people are professional, they go to office on regular basis. They are having alternate day class, or they have classes on weekend. So sometimes they get frustrated and they give up on language, though they want to learn, but they give up. What you want to say to
That
them?
condition was that time also, because
Yeah.
many students joined, but many times they had to do their job, and that was very important. Therefore, they gave importance to job, and then somehow they used to lose the interest in Japanese language. That is quite obvious. So that condition is always there, and now the working time is so much that people get exhausted with the working time itself, in their job. So it is going to happen, but they have to keep somehow uh, their interest.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. My question was little bit offline. It
Huh.
was like how to get concentrated towards the language, because it's like one day break, then classes, then again a break, then classes. So what should a person do? What should a student or the professional do in order to be concentrated towards that language, so
So
they
that time
don't give
also,
up?
in our time also, there was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like that, batches were there, and one day break was always there. But the students should fill the gap between the 2 days, whatever they can do. So whatever they have learned on Monday, they should review on the second day. Then they go to the class. Then like that they have to go do it. Because nowadays I have found that in online classes they don't write anything, the students. And if you don't write anything, you are totally written off from everything. No. Because unless you have practice of writing, you cannot remember. Because remembering is a process for which you have to use the whole body. Your eyes, you have to use your mouth, you have to use your hands and all that. And for kanji, you have to train
Yes.
your hands, because they say that kanji is learned by the body and not only by the mind. So if you read many kanjis, it doesn't mean that you know how to write the kanjis. So they have to go on writing every day. The same lessons, you can write the lessons themselves, but you have to write something every day. And on online teaching, writing is almost zero, because everything is sent to you by online process. No? You get the notes, everything.
Yeah, all the
So
PDF
it
we
is
can get.
superficial, obviously.
So with this, I think I should individually take the note, and all the students like me should take the note that
Yes,
there
yes,
should be consistency for learning,
yes,
so
yes.
that you won't give up.
And what they have learned on the first day, they have to review on the second day. Means revise on the second day. Then third day they will learn something more. Fourth day they have to revise. Like that they have to go. So teacher will not be responsible for that. You have to be. Teacher will go halfway. You have to come halfway,
Yeah.
and then the two ends will meet. Otherwise, it will be very difficult.
Yes, definitely. It
Hmm.
will be very difficult. It depends on individual. If they
Yes,
want to
yes.
learn, they have to
Because there were
concentrate on
some
that.
students who had some shift jobs.
Yeah.
In some Bhima Koregaon company, there was one student. He was coming, he was doing his job in shifts, and he used to come occasionally to the class, obviously, because sometimes he had shift on the day, throughout the day. So what he did is, there is one more thing, that group study should be there, because there were some students who took him to the canteen, that Ramesh canteen in the Ranare Institute, and they took tea. At the same time, they taught him whatever I taught them. They fed him, and that type of thing filled the gap what he had missed. So that is also important, that some interaction between the students should be there, not only the teacher. And it is the teacher's responsibility to keep a good relation between the students themselves, to make them work together, not only between teacher and student, but students and students. So that was what we did, and it succeeded very well.
Sure. So obviously, it's a great point for all the aspiring students and the professionals who want to learn the Japanese language, including me.
You are learning Japanese language?
Actually, I started learning Japanese language back in 2017, and it was a wonderful time at that time because I was working in a Japanese company,
Uh-huh.
and it was easy and accessible language at that time. But then, sometime later, I switched my company and moved to some other place. So it was difficult for me to join the classes, and at that time,
Mhm.
online classes option was very less. This happens
So, but
from COVID.
keep it in
Yeah,
dormant state, so that whenever you get favorable conditions, you can start learning again. Because there were
yeah.
some lady students who learned Japanese language long back, and then they
Hmm.
got married, they got jobs and all that. Their children were there, and after that they started learning, and they became quite proficient in Japanese language, and they started teaching also. So it
Wow.
may happen. It should happen actually.
Thank you for all the appreciation to get involved once again with the language and
Yes,
start
yes,
learning.
you can do it.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I'm sure.
Arigato gozaimasu. I
Yeah,
know this thank.
but you will tell me that you have become a Japanese language teacher or whatever, interpreter, translator, or whatever.
Sure. Okay. So as you know that this year we are celebrating 70th diplomatic relationship of Indo-Japan, India and Japan. So if you were a student at this time, how you would have done the things in Japan to, make some more cordial relationship between, because if we talk about Japan and India, Japanese people know India, like we are having some fooding habits, like we know we eat almost every time curry, and Indian people know Japan as a sushi nation. They always eat sushi. So in that sense, in different fields or things, how you have helped the both the nation to come more closer?
Actually, it is the young generation that can bridge the gap. That is the best way. And nowadays it is happening actually. In our case, uh, that time we were young and we used to tell them about Indian culture, Japanese people. And they used to tell us about their culture. And like that, we mixed together. So that is one way of doing it, because the young generation is most efficient in bridging the gap. So there should be a lot of interaction between young people. And what is happening now, because there are lots of scholarship, and they are sending quite young students there. Because when I went first to Japan, it was I was about 36-year-olds also, 36, 37-year-olds, first time. And now they are going at the age of 19, 20, like that. many students. I see in TMOV, Maharashtra University, that many young students have gone. Your Dhanashri also had gone at quite a young age, and she is now doing the work which is obviously related to Japan now. So,
in fact, we are very proud that she joined us, means Indo-Japan Business Council as Executive Secretary. So,
actually, Atte was also my student. He was my student when he was in advanced diploma, and we had good relations up to the few years back. Yeah. Suddenly, because of his sad demise, there was a lot of loss to the students also, of course, because he sent many students to Japan through TMOV.
Actually, it's actually a great loss, and we miss him a lot. He did a lot of things, for Indo-Japan Business Council as well, for bridging the gap between India and Japan. So we miss him.
He had tied with many universities, with TMOV and all that. So he was a bridge, but
okay. So if I move forward, your translation work, like post your retirement, you started it independently, or it's like your side work from the beginning?
No, what happened is someone came to me with a Japanese document, maybe a chemical patent, and then asked me to translate. And when I saw, I thought it is only Greek and Latin to me. Nothing was understood by me. Then I started reading each kanji, and that time there were no kanji dictionaries. So I had to find out some kanji dictionary, and each kanji I had to learn. So that time it took about say 2-3 hours to complete one paragraph. Like that I went, and then I started doing that type of thing. But there was nobody else, so they gave me that job and got it done somehow from me, and somehow it was okay for them. Like that I went on doing, and finally I mastered that. That is only because of hard work, nothing else. Hard work and a lot of time, just like Japanese people. They spend a lot of time and a lot of energy in doing something and succeed. That's why I succeeded.
And translating means in one documents of one industry, like pharmaceutical, if I say.
Yes.
And then translating documents of manufacturing industry, related to manufacturing industry, it must be very different.
Yes, definitely.
Because terms get changed. So how difficult it was for you at that time?
It is difficult. Still it is difficult. Even if you know the words, you can get online dictionaries and all that, you get words. Even if you can get translation also, machine translation. But still, to get proper word, it is very difficult, because what is called as something in one field, the same word can be used in different way in some other field. For example, there is one word, meire, that is called as order, to order something. Imperative form, order, I order you to do this, that order. And in computer language, it is a command. So you have to use command there, not order. You are not ordering the computer, you are giving the computer a command. So you have to use proper word, and that is very important. For example, medicine and drug, we have to use the word medicine, we have to use the word drug for Japanese word. There are lots of things, and that for that you should know English language also.
Yes.
Because if you know, if you take, for example, a leaflet from a medicine, there are always information about, say, eye drops or something. when to use the eye drops, who should not use, all that. That information is written in definite English, using definite English terms. If you don't know the English terms, you will just translate it. But those will not be the terms which are required in that field. So that is very important. For example, efficacy. It is not effectiveness, it is efficacy of a drug. So such terms which are specific to that industry or that field should be used in translation. That is very important. Therefore, not knowing only two languages is sufficient, but you should have that type of knowledge also, which term should be selected from a given meaning, because the meaning is given in, for example, yapuhin means medicine, drug, then something, some other things. Which of those words are to be used? That is very important. So the translation is very, that way, you can say it is a very tricky job, not a simple.
So what you want to say to companies who adopting the practice, like we are having the internet now, Google. So they just want to, because of cost reduction or cost saving,
Yes.
they go for Google translation. So, and the outcome is not good actually.
Actually, when I saw, I am seeing now that Google Translation long back and Google Translation now, it has improved a lot, and it is very close to the subject matter nowadays. Of course, it may be related to some field, not in all fields, because people give feedback to the Google, and naturally they go on improving their database, and like that, it has improved a lot. So it helps definitely, but you have to use your own discretion in using the terms. That is very important, and phrases, because the phrasing is also important.
Sure. And you being the teacher for Japanese language, you must have came across for a lot of assignments for translation. And what was your experience in that? Because if I see today the community of interpreters and translators, they are not regarded as a full-time job sometimes by some companies, or not very important. So what your decision or what your opinion on that?
I have not understood exactly what you want to.
Actually, if I see the community of interpreters or the translators, maybe they are working in a company, or maybe they are doing the freelance job. So they are not being offered as per the company standards sometimes, because they see a lot of people are there to do their work, or it's not considered a very as a important segment for their important department for their company, just like the engineer or the marketing person or the salesperson. So what is your opinion on that?
That depends upon how much general knowledge you have. Because if you have general knowledge, you can adopt your interpretation accordingly. Because if you don't have any general knowledge, it is very difficult for you to be a good interpreter. And if you are not a good interpreter, they will not pay you that much. Because they will pay when they feel that you are helping them a lot. Depending upon that, how useful you are, your services to them. So that is very important, because when I was asked by Tendulkar Sensei to work for a company, in a forging company, she told me that they will give you 100 rupees per day. That time it was 1986 or 7, 100 rupees per day. But I was not interested in money, because I was full time. I was getting my salary, so I was not at all interested in extra money. So I said, okay. And first day, what word I heard was die sinking. Die is one word, sinking is one word. You know the meaning of both. Die means to die, sink means to sink. And if you sink, you may die. But that die sinking was to take a block of material and then carve it in such a way that if you put very hot iron on that and pound it with a big force, then you will get certain shape. That is what carving that was die sinking. So you have to learn things. And that Japanese team, from that, I learned so many things in forging that afterwards I started giving them advice. Giving them means that forging people advice that you should do this. The material flow is this way and all that. So this will give you a lot of stress in the product. So don't use that design like that. So you have to get involved in that field. And you should have some scientific background also. If you don't have, you have to learn everything in that field.
Sure.
And there are lots of ways of learning now. Now there is not a problem. So if you put die sinking in that term in Google, you will get lots of videos, audios, everything is there. So nowadays it is very easy. That is why you have to get involved in that. So you will get big amount, no doubt. They will give you themselves.
Sure.
That time 100 rupees was very not much at all. Now they are giving 12,000 rupees, 8,000 rupees like that per day. I think I've heard like that because nowadays I don't do interpretation thing, but it is something like that. But people think that they worth more. It is not like that. You have to improve yourself by your work. That is important.
Yeah. So, like you are one of the co-founder for JLPT. Sorry,
Actually,
JLTAP. Sorry,
hi,
JLTAP.
yes.
So when this idea came to your mind that there should be this sort of association should be in Pune, and what was your idea at that time?
Actually, the number of students learning in Japanese in Pune had crossed German language people and other languages also. So that time, Dr. Govind Damle was head of the department of that institute, and he was a German expert. But still, he was supportive to Japanese language. So he told us that if so many students are there and they have to go to Delhi for that test and they have a lot of difficulties, their examinations are there that time, college examinations. So it is better that we should have the examination here. So therefore, Tendulkar Sensei and myself and Kinkar Sensei, we had collective efforts and we somehow told the Japan Foundation that you should take the test here in Pune because that will be helpful for Mumbai people and from the South people. Because after the Japanese JLPT came here, there was a lot of awareness about Japanese language in the South, and many people from the South learned that language. That was the impact of JLPT in Pune. It was in 1993 we started that. And Dr. Damle, Govind Damle Sensei, Tendulkar Sensei, Kinkar Sensei, myself, and our students also, we all had convinced Mr. Nakajima, who was cultural consulate at that time, and he did a lot of things for us and started that here.
And at that time also it was JLPT conducted for twice a year or just
No,
for
once
a
a
year?
year. Twice a year started some few years back only. Because all over the world, the number increased so much and the learning had become faster because of the advent of your internet and all that, audio, video. So that is why they started. And there was a demand for Japanese language because they have a very limited number of young people to work, and they need a lot of people who know Japanese language, young people. That was imperative in uh, happening, that type of happening. So.
And you also prepared online dictionary, online Japanese-Marathi workbook, handbook, sorry, not dictionary.
That is not online. That is one. There is one book, Minna no Nihongo. You may be knowing.
In Marathi.
That is used for learning Japanese, and they have some English key for that. That all the translation and all that, and we have made it in Marathi. And this project was also started by Professor Prashant Pardeshi. So he actually initiated that, and I helped him in doing that in Marathi, checking Marathi and all that, because I was educated in Marathi up to 11th standard, that is SSC. So he thought that my Marathi is better. Okay, we had checked it. There were some people also from Pune. Mrs. Suptankar was there, and some other people were also there, and we had prepared this book, and that is for rural people especially. Because nowadays even Marathi students cannot understand this Marathi. They say that we don't know Marathi or that. But their English is also not very good. It is better to know Marathi better than English or Hindi.
Yeah. So thank you for making the association JLTAP, Japanese
yes.
this.
There are a lot of difficulties for that, of course.
Yeah, it must be very difficult at that
very
time.
Difficult. Yeah, I've explained it on my Facebook page. All that history of all that, and how to learn Japanese. Of course, that is in Marathi, but many people found it quite useful. So it was written just as a fun. How to learn Japanese with fun, making so not very tension. Don't take any tension like that. I have explained it.
So all the students who know Marathi language should visit your page to
yes.
how to learn it in a fun way and stick to that.
I can send them that file also. I will make one file and send them to you. Because if you start learning Japanese, you have some misconceptions about that language. And you think that you will learn it very easily, etc. But exactly where to put efforts, how to learn with fun and all that, that I have explained there. Some tips are there.
It will be very helpful for the students to get the tips from there, and especially it is from you, so obviously it will be very grateful for them. So they should visit your page. And the association which you have created, JLTAP, it's like we are getting the benefit of that now. And in fact, a lot of people last 13 years, 14 years, they got the benefit of that. So thank you very much for that. And all the founding people who helped in that and was involved in that.
Sorry?
All the founding members who were involved in that at that time, who helped to create the JLTAP.
Yeah.
Along with
some
you.
Of them
so
helped. And some of them are taken only for, because there were some definite number of people were required for that, making that what you call it, association.
Yeah.
So okay, doesn't matter. But out of 100 people, only 5 people are always very much helpful, and they will listen to you, they will follow you, and all that. That I know already. So I'm not frustrated, never frustrated. I never get frustrated.
Sure. Okay. My one not exactly the question, but I want to know the opinion. Like Indo-Japan Business Council right now is making a bilingual directory. Uh, it's a directory for everyone. Means irrespective of field or industry you are working in. Maybe you are in hospitality segment. Maybe you are in automobile engineer. You know the Japanese language. You are not translator or the interpreter, but you can register them yourself in the directory. So how you think that this initiative is going to help?
That is great, obviously. That is great. Because if you have collection of data, then sometime whenever you require, you can use it in your own way, isn't it? Because if you want some interpreter or someone, or if you don't, if there is a person who is not at all an interpreter, you can get some advice from him about something, né? If he knows Japanese language. For example, about chemistry, you can ask me. So like that, you can use it anyway. And if you have all the data with you, you can immediately access that person and get help from him.
Sure.
And those who have learned Japanese, they will definitely help you. Help people, no doubt. I'm sure about that.
Yeah, in fact, I personally have seen who have learned Japanese language or learning Japanese language or teachers of Japanese language. They are very helpful. They are very soft spoken and they are very patient in that way and very helpful actually.
That is obvious because from the Japanese culture, something is imbibed in your brain naturally. So it happens like that.
So we have talked a lot about Japanese language, the chemistry, the Japanese language teachers program, JLTAP, the handbook in Marathi. So before I close this interview, I want to know something about you as a person in your free time.
In free time, I have a lot of things to do because I got retired in 2007.
Long back.
That time, on the same day, I had some work of JLPT because there was some paper collection from Japan Foundation and all that distribution. And in the next 2 days there was exam JLPT. So I was involved in that. After that, I continued my this work, translation work. So I'm busy in that. And in 2012, if you know Vinay Sathi Sensei, he's also no more. He was in TMV. He asked me to, requested me actually to teach something in Maharashtra University because he was my student for 3 years. So he's thought that I should teach at whatever I want in their institute. So I told him that I will teach in my own way. You don't force me to do this way, that way. He said, okay, you teach. And since then, I was teaching. Only 1 year I took a gap, I think. And now I'm teaching for MA Part 1, the translation itself, translation subject. So that way I'm busy. And in the rest of the time, I write something about Japanese, whatever I've written, about 20 articles I've written in about Japanese on Facebook, in Marathi, of course. And then my schoolmates are there. So we always talk about each other and meet each other and exchange thoughts. Then I play harmonium, whatever I can play. Wow. I can understand what I am playing, but nowadays I am at that stage. I don't know whether others understand that. But like that, I go on. and then some foreign travel and all that. I visited Australia, New Zealand, then Cambodia, Vietnam. These countries normally don't people don't visit. USA. My son is there, so I had to go there, and Japan sometime. And like that, I don't find any free moment. So far, I'm very much satisfied. I don't feel retired. One thing is that I was always with students of the age from 18 to 22. So I feel myself of that age, that I am of that age, always. So I behave like that only. People may call me childish person, but okay, that's all. That is okay for me.
So, any funny incident you remember from the days of your days in Japan?
Funny days in?
In Japan, any funny incident
Uh,
which you can share with us?
Funny in the sense that a lot of difference is there. For example, once I went to the post office, and when I entered, I heard the words "Irashaimase" means welcome. In our post office, you know what is the conditions. There are a lot of dark space and everything. Nobody, their faces, you see how their faces are. And then I was surprised. Then I had to send some parcel. So the limit was 10 kilos. And it was 10 kilo plus some few grams and all that. Then that lady said that it is ちょっと 多すぎますねとかね it is slightly more than what is to be there. Then she gave me one scissors, then one tape, everything is there. She gave me and then told me that you remove something, then put it again and give it to me. Now, I was surprised that everything was there. In our case, what would have happened? You know.
You don't find a pen also?
Pen and specs are also there.
Oh.
They are kept there on the desk. So if you forget your specs, you can, of course, they may not match exactly your eyes, but they are there. For 40, what we call a charisi, they are there.
And
Very interesting.
yeah. And do you want to say anything related to India and Japan so that people may get connected more often, easily? Or there's need to be changed something among themselves, whether if I talk about Japan as a country and India as a country, or Japanese people or Indian people, so they can collaborate more.
So first of all, they want trained people, means skilled people in different fields. That is not paper qualification, but they should know, for example, nurses and many things are there. So if you have the skills and if you know Japanese language, both should be covered together. Then you have great chances of going to Japan. And if you prove yourself, then you get good salaries. Because nowadays there are many people who are coming from other countries like Nepal and Bangladesh and all that, and they are exploiting the people. Japanese people are exploiting them, and many people are committing suicides like that. I have heard like that. So if you have good, better qualification or skill, then you can, and Japanese language, of course, then you can survive in Japan and make a lot of help to them. And if you help them, they will definitely help them. So it is definite, no problem about it. Only manpower is very important for them nowadays.
Sure. So before I close this interview, is there anything you want to say to the audience who is listening to this interview from the platform of IJBC?
My um, I can only just say that everybody should learn Japanese language because that will make you more organized, then more punctual, and you will get more disciplined and all that. And if you afterwards forget about Japanese language, those qualities will remain with you. So they will help you in the rest of your future, your future and rest of your life. So you can do anything after that. It is not that after learning Japanese you have to go to Japan, you do some job related to Japan. Because there are many students who tell me that, sir, I have left Japanese and now I am in other job. Then I tell them, you are doing good, no? Oh, okay. As long as you are doing good, it's okay. It is not that once you start learning Japanese, throughout the life you have to learn Japanese language. It is not like that. If you are doing something good and if you are helping people, that's all right. That's all right. Because that is the purpose of life. If you help the people, you will get the returns, obviously. That is the thing. But if you learn Japanese language, you have some qualities automatically attached to you. They will automatically attach to you. So that is quite a good thing.
So it was really a very, very wonderful session with you, sir. Lot of things can be taken from this interview by all students or the professionals, and in fact from by teachers as well. How they need to impart the knowledge, how they need to start teaching methodology, and
That also I
professionals.
explained in my Facebook page.
Yeah. So a lot of things was there in this interview, and I request all of them to visit to your page as well, Facebook page, and get the knowledge or tips from there, because it was just a 1 hour interview what I can afford to get a time from you, but they can definitely get lot of interesting
They
things
can
from.
contact me anytime for any help. So no problem.
So
Still
it will
people come to
be.
me and we talk a lot.
So all the students who are listening this interview, you are having a great knowledgeable access to you now. Visit to sir and get as much as knowledge you can get. So it was pleasure talking to you, and thank you for coming to my show.
I also thank you very much for giving me so much exposure to the students, because if you are senior by age, you feel that whatever you know, you should pass it to the next generation so that they can make progress. And that chance you have given to me. That is very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So this was Mr. Hari Damle, a knowledgeable person in Japanese language, not only in Japanese language but also in chemistry language. Retired professor as a head of department of chemistry, and doing a lot of work in translation and interpretation, and wrote a lot of articles on his Facebook page. So he's a person who bridging the gap between India and Japan, and it was a pleasure to be to take his interview. So please visit to his page and get as much as knowledge you can get, and get the direct access from anywhere you can get to be in contact with him. So it was wonderful interview today, and with this I'm closing the interview, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel to get all the updates on events on Fireside Chat and everything which IJBC is conducting. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Konnichiwa.
ありがとうございます。はい